Okay, so thanks for everybody joining us today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the new heartbeat features in Win911. And since we're talking about monitoring the connection to Win911, I figure it might as well be a good time to talk about configuring some backup notification methods to make sure if one fails, you can have a second one to pick it up for you or notify when the other one fails. So the agenda for today. First, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and go through a heartbeat overview, explain what a heartbeat is, and then talk a little more specific to each one of the heartbeats that we support, which is for InTouch, System Platform, and IFix. Then I'll show you guys a demo with InTouch. The demo for System Platform and IFix would be very similar, but I figure InTouch would be the quickest one for you guys to see. And then we'll talk a little bit about the backup notification methods, and then we will do a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions during the presentation, just go ahead and type them in the chat box, and we'll come to those at the end of the presentation. All right, so heartbeats. I assume most of you guys probably know what a heartbeat is, but a heartbeat allows you to monitor the connection between Win911 and your HMI application. If you guys are version 7 users, if you've been with us for a long time, you probably know this as a system health poke. It's the same exact thing, except it's got a different name. So we decided we'll call it heartbeats with the new Win911 platform. So the way it works is the Win911 data source will go ahead and write an incrementing value to a tag within your HMI application. Right now, we support heartbeats for InTouch, System Platform, and IFix. So we'll write an incrementing value to a tag in any one of those HMI applications, and the range is 0 to 9. Version 7 used to be 32,767, which we figure would be hard for you guys to test. You'd have to wait for it to go all the way to 32,767 before it would loop over. And we didn't want to test that, and we figure you guys don't want to test that either. So now it just goes from 0 to 9. After it gets to 9, it will loop back to 0 and just continuously increment that value until you shut the Win911 application down. So if you're monitoring that tag in your HMI application, and if you don't see that tag value change within the time interval that you set, then you know Win911 is no longer connected to your application. So that's the whole point of a heartbeat. So we are going to have a new release next week to support the heartbeat with IFix. So if you were to install Win911 right now, there is no heartbeat feature for IFix. That will be out next week. We'll also be supporting IFix 6.0 as they are about to release IFix 6. So we had to make some changes for that. And once you set up these heartbeats in Win911 and your HMI, you need to monitor them. And the way you monitor them is with scripts. So in the past, we've kind of stayed away from script writing or providing scripts. But I figured this time around we should actually give you guys some examples of some scripts you can use to monitor the changing value. Right now we have examples for InTouch and System Platform, and when we release the IFix Heartbeat, we'll have an example for an IFix script as well. So what we'll do is we'll just go and talk through each one of these heartbeats for those data sources I was just talking about. So the first one's going to be InTouch, and with InTouch, let me back up a little bit. There's a little bit of a difference between this heartbeat and the way it worked in Win911, in version 7, I should say. So this heartbeat, or this new version of Win911, connects to InTouch with 2 different mechanisms. In order to get alarms, we're connecting to the Alarm Manager program. We're using Wonderware's Alarm Toolkit to do that. And to get data from InTouch, we're using SweetLink. So technically, this is 2 different connections. In order for us to do the heartbeat goes through the SweetLink connection. All the alarms come from the Alarm Manager connection. So it's both of these connections together that make the direct connect possible. We decided to change the way we were interfacing with InTouch because this allows us to have remote connections to InTouch applications, which means you can monitor more than one InTouch application at a time. So the problem here with the heartbeat, though, is a heartbeat's going to go through our SweetLink connection. And the Sweet Link connection can be good, while the Alarm Manager connection could be bad. If the Alarm Manager connection is bad, you're not getting alarms. But if the Sweet Link connection is good, your heartbeat would just keep going and you would think everything's good even though you're not receiving alarms. So for InTouch, what we have done is we've created a heartbeat feature. So you specify a tag, and we're going to write to that tag value 0 through 9. And then we've also introduced a heartbeat suspension feature, which means you tell us a tag to watch for a changing alarm value. It's very similar to a watchdog. If we don't see the changing alarm within the timeout that you set, we know that the Alarm Manager connection has died. And if the Sweet Link connection is still good, we'll go ahead and just pause the heartbeat because the Alarm Manager connection is not good. So we felt like if we just supported the Sweet Link connection, you could stop receiving alarms, the Sweet Link connection would keep going, and you wouldn't know that Win91 is actually not receiving alarms. So these two things together make the heartbeat possible with the new InTouch data source. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to demo it for you so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And the system platform data source is very similar, except the only difference is that we're getting data through the MX access connection, not Sweet Link. So we're still getting alarms from Alarm Manager with system platform, but all the data goes through an MX access connection. So we still have the heartbeat suspension with system platforms. It's the same exact mechanism that I was just talking about, but it's just system platform instead. The IFix Heartbeat is almost identical to the version 7 Heartbeat. We're using GE's EDA toolkit, their Easy Database Access toolkit. And as long as that connection is good, we know Win91 is going to function properly. There is nothing else that we need to watch for. If EDA fails, then everything's going to fail. So with IFix, all you're doing is specifying one block to write to, and we just change that value just like the other heartbeats, 0 through 9, and then we loop back over. So what we'll do is show you guys a demo real quick. So let me jump out of the PowerPoint and go to a VM. So here we have Win91 loaded up. I'm looking at the InTouch data source screen. I'm on the application tab, and you can see I've already put my InTouch application in here. You'll see that there is a new tab called Heartbeat. So if I go into edit mode, I can go into Heartbeat, and you have two options for the enable heartbeat and enable heartbeat suspension. So we give a brief description of what each one of these does. I think the heartbeat suspension one is one you probably want to read. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what the heartbeat does. So what you do is you specify a tag that you want to write this changing value to. Again, it's 0 through 9, and you change how often you want to change the value. So the default is 1 minute. The heartbeat suspension, this is where you're watching a tag for a changing alarm value. If we don't see the changing alarm value within 2 minutes, we will go ahead and suspend the Sweet Link connection even if that Sweet Link connection was good. So this is very similar to a Watchdog. It's basically the same functionality, except it's not tied to, it doesn't create an alarm when it goes off within Win91. So I have already configured this. So I've got enable heartbeat turned on, and I've got this tag specified, and I've got enable heartbeat suspension turned on, and I've got a tag that I have going in and out of alarm every minute. So I can go ahead and hit save and go down to Window Maker, and then I'll show you how I set this up in InTouch. First, I'll go to the tag name dictionary and show you the tags I created. So the first one would be this Win91 heartbeat tag. It is an integer tag. I'm using a memory integer tag. As long as it's an integer, it's fine. It needs to go from 0 to 9. So you just create a quick tag, memory integer. It's going to write the value 0 through 9. Then I've also created this heartbeat suspension tag. And for this tag, it is a memory discrete, and I enabled an alarm on it. So it's a discrete alarm, so anytime it goes to 1, it goes into alarm, and then anytime it goes to 0, it's out of alarm. And what I've done here is I've set the priority to be really low, so 999 is InTouch's lowest priority. I've done that so that when you create your alarm summary, you can filter it out of your alarm summary. Assuming you guys don't care about alarms that are priority 999, then you just won't see it in the alarm summary. If you guys use the priority range the other way, then just flip it around and it would be the same thing. So this tag is going to go in and out of alarm every minute. And then I've created some other tags that will make more sense once I show you the scripts that are tied to this. So Win911 is going to write to that heartbeat tag, Win911 heartbeat, every minute. Every minute it's going to change the value by 1. And what we can do then is we can go into some data change scripts in InTouch. The first one that I've done is tied to the minute tag, the system tag for $minute. What it's going to do is it's going to increment a tag called heartbeat counter. You don't have to create that tag. If you go ahead and paste this script in here, which is on our knowledge base, I'll tell you guys about that more in a moment. If you just type it in here, it'll auto create the tag for you. But you have a heartbeat counter that every minute, because this script gets triggered every time the minute tag changes, every minute it's going to add 1 to the heartbeat counter. And that heartbeat counter is just going to keep adding and adding and adding, and it'll go forever if you just let it go forever. Then I've got an if statement here saying if heartbeat suspension is 0, then change it to a 1, otherwise change it to a 0. So this is how I'm toggling that alarm, that tag in and out of alarm every minute. So every minute this script fires off, checks to see the value of the heartbeat suspension, and then changes its value so that it is in a changing alarm state. So that just constantly happens. Every minute it changes its alarm state. So this is the first script that you have. The second one is where you use the heartbeat. This one is another data change script where I'm watching the heartbeat. Every time the heartbeat triggers, I'm setting that heartbeat counter to 0. So that heartbeat counter that's incrementing every minute, every time you get an update from the heartbeat, it changes it to 0. So this script is resetting it. If you're going to, I'll come back to this Win911 faulted later, so we'll talk about that in a moment. So this script, its only job is to reset that counter. That's all it does. So what we'll do now is we'll just go ahead and run it. I'm using a demo license here. So I set my initial value of the heartbeat to 99. The reason I've done that is because if you leave the initial value to 0, the first value Win911 will write to the heartbeat is a 0, so it won't look like a change has occurred. So that might be something you guys would want to do, set your initial value to 99, so the first time Win911 writes to it, it writes a 0 and you can see that change. So it takes 1 minute for the first write to come through. But what you would see here is you'll see that heartbeat value change to a 0, and every minute that heartbeat suspension tag is going to go in and out of alarm. I did not filter it out of my alarm summary, so you're going to see it show up in the alarm summary window after a minute, and at the same time the counter is going to go up. So now you see the heartbeat counter is set to a 1. That means I added 1 to it. So if another minute goes by without getting an update from the heartbeat, it's going to go to a 2. But as soon as the heartbeat updates from Win911, it's going to reset back to 0. And hopefully, I know this is not the most exciting thing to watch in a presentation, watching data changes. But Win911 should connect here and reset the heartbeat to a 0 in just a moment. Assuming I hit save on this window, which I did. So we'll keep waiting here for it to change. And if it doesn't change, you can see why it's a good idea to have a heartbeat monitor within your HMI application, because then you know when Win91 is not connected. So there, another minute went by without getting an update. I have it set to pop up another screen that says Win91 is no longer connected to InTouch. So what I'll do is I'll get rid of that screen if I can move it and go back to my other screen. Oh, so there it finally wrote the value to a 4, and so it set my heartbeat counter back to 0. So now every minute this heartbeat's going to increment by 1, so it'll go to 5 and 6, and once it gets to 9 it will loop back over. So that's what the heartbeat's doing. So let me go back to Window Maker. I'll leave this running. All right, so the fact that you're just writing a tag to InTouch and changing some value, I mean, that's kind of pointless. You need to actually do something with it. So what you can do is you can create a condition script, and this condition script is going to say if the heartbeat counter gets to be over 1, or is greater than 1, then do something. So you can make it show up another window like you saw it did for me. So I had it show another screen display or window called Win91 comm loss. You can show any screen you want. I've also showing in here that the Win91, I have another tag, a discrete tag called Win91 faulted, and I'm setting it to a 1, which means an alarm would show up in InTouch in front of the operator saying, hey, Win91 is no longer connected. So we can see that in the tag name dictionary. You go to Win91 faulted. I got it set up as a memory discrete. It'll go into alarm when it's a 1. So when this condition script fires off because the heartbeat counter was able to get to greater than 1, which means it is a 2, then trigger this alarm. Then if I go back to earlier I said I would go back to this Win91 heartbeat script. That's why Win91 faulted is being reset to 0. So when it does get the update from the heartbeat again, it will reset that alarm back to inactive. All right, so that's how you set up the heartbeat. If you look at system platform, I should type it in. Come on. And we create a galaxy. It's got the same exact screen. So enable heartbeat suspension, because it uses the same alarm manager connection. That's why we're still doing the suspension feature for system platform. Like I said, with IFix, it has an EDA connection. Everything comes from the EDA connection, so we don't need to have that heartbeat feature. So if you turn on heartbeat within IFix, all you need to do is specify a node name and a tag name, and it's going to write to that tag every minute. So those are the heartbeats that are in the new Win91 system. There are knowledge-based documents that talk about setting up the scripting within system platform and what I just showed you guys with InTouch. If you guys have questions about those scripts later on, feel free to email me. I will show you, I'll give you guys my email address in just a moment. Or if you guys have better ways to do the scripts, like if you guys just want to share your scripts with us, we certainly welcome that. So feel free to shoot those over. So now we'll go back to the presentation. So right now we only have heartbeats for those 3 data sources, but we plan on introducing them for all of our data sources. Factory Talk, we've been talking to those guys about maybe supporting one of their status tags, and it won't be the traditional heartbeat that we are just showing you. It would be something that's more built into Factory Talk alarm and events, which would be really nice because then you wouldn't need any kind of scripting. The InTouch Machine Edition or InTouch HMI, we'll add it to there, and Simplicity and our OPC connection. Most likely the next one is going to be the OPC DA connection, and then Factory Talk would probably follow after that. All right, so let's talk about some backup notifiers. So what we mean by backup notifier is we think it is always best to have at least 2 notification methods when you're setting up Win 911, because if one notification method were to fail, you won't get any alarms sent to anyone. But if you have a second notifier set up to maybe be delayed and send a notification if the alarm hasn't been acknowledged, then you can be more sure that your alarm notification went out. So a common use case would be that maybe when you get an alarm, send an email as soon as the alarm occurs. Give the operators maybe out of 5 to 10 minutes to respond to the alarm. So in this new Win911, you can reply to email alarms and acknowledge them. So maybe after the 5 or 10 minutes, it hasn't been acknowledged. So then you can go ahead and trigger some other notification method, maybe like a phone call. So if it's a phone call, if they didn't see the email, they'll most likely hear their phone ringing, for example. So another thing to consider is that if you're using internet-based notifiers, meaning you're using email, it has to go out over the internet, or you're using mobile 911, has to go out over the internet, then maybe you want to look into the SMS notifier, because SMS has a dedicated cellular modem that you plug into your computer, or you can access it over your local network. But the modem itself is not tied to your local internet connection. It's tied to the cellular tower. So if your internet connection goes down, your cellular modem can still send text messages through the cell tower. So that's another good example of why you would want to have a backup notifier. So in short, I think it's just best to go ahead and have 2 notification methods to make sure your alarms are getting out to your customer, to the operators that need to see them. So that's it for this webinar. I tried to keep it short. So I'll go ahead and take a look at some of the questions if you guys have any, which right now I don't see any. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them in the box and we'll go ahead and answer them. Otherwise, feel free to email me at steven.rivas@win911.com any questions you have. And while we're waiting, if